डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब आंबेडकर ओपन यूनिवर्सिटी.
Hello and welcome to the course on Indian Poetics. Today's the topic or the unit that we are going to discuss is constituent elements of Indian poetics. We are going to discuss this one by one, and we are going to take an overview of what constitutes Indian poetics in terms of various theories and various types of Indian poetics that we have bifurcated so far. So let's start with the course. The objectives of the session is to discuss the constituent elements of Indian poetics in detail, show how the different types of Indian poetics that have evolved to constitute the literary tradition of India, and the role of Sanskrit, Tamil and modern poetics in the creation of Indian literary identity. So, to begin with, what is Sahitya? The issue or the terminology of Kavya, Natya and Sahitya. In Indian poetics, these three words have been used interchangeably sometimes, and sometimes people confuse one for another. So let us begin with the terminology called Sahitya, literature. The Sanskrit word for literature is Sahitya, as I already said, which etymologically means coordination, balance, concord and contact. As Dr. Krishnamurti rightly says, in Rigveda itself you see the word Alamkrit, which is being used in both the connotation of as an amulet or an ornamentation, because word Alamkara in throughout Sanskrit tradition has been used as an ornamentation, and there is Alankara school also, and as the course move forward you will be introduced to various theories and the thinkers who have discussed Alamkaras in detail. So I would skip that part, but we have to understand this fact that the tradition of Indian poetics and the word Alamkara is as old as our own Vedas. In Rigveda this word is used, and it cognates with the later word Alamkara also, which we use in Indian poetics as well. Further down, Valmiki in his Ramayana refers to poetics also. He calls poetics as Kriya Kalpa. Kriya Kalpa vidascha kavya vido gnanam. This is what he says in Uttarakhand. Moving a little further, Lalita Vistar Sutra, a Buddhist text which belongs to somewhere 2nd century, explains the term Kriya Kalpa as the rules of creating poetic works, Kavya Karana Vidhi, what is they call it as, and says that the term means Kavya Alankara, the poetics, Kriya Kalpa iti kavya karna vidhi kavya alamkaram iti arthanam. Kriya kalpa iti kavya karana vidhi kavya alankara iti arthanam. Now, taking an overview of what constitutes Indian poetics, we have three basic questions with which the poetics of Indian literary tradition has dealt with. One is, what is the origin of poetry? Kavya Karan. Second is, what is the use of poem? Kavya Prayojan. Third is, what are the characteristics of a poem? What are the Kavya Lakshanam? So these are the three questions around which the thinkers over centuries have debated, elaborated and discussed upon. Now, coming back to the tradition or listing down what constitutes Indian poetics or Sanskrit, Indian poetics, especially in Sanskrit, because as we move further in the course, we would realize that often we make this mistake of considering Sanskrit poetics as the Indian poetics, but Indian poetics actually also include there are three types of poetics within framework of Indian poetics. One is Sanskrit poetics, second is Tamil poetics, and third is modern Indian poetics. We will take them one by one, and let us first begin with Sanskrit poetics. Sanskrit poetics begins with Bharat Muni, who has written Natya Shastra, which is basically a treatise on theatre, and it is based, it is also the text for classical dance and theatre of India of ancient times. It is believed to have been written around early 1st BC. It's a grammar book on, as we already discussed, it's a grammar book on classical dance and theatre in Indian tradition. Then from Bharat, 1st BC, we come directly to Bhama. In Kavya Shastra or Kavya Lankar, he begins the Indian poetics effectively. With Bhama, we begin an effective start of Indian poetics and a proper systematic theorization of Indian poetics. Immediately after Bhama, we have Dandin in 7th century, who in his Kavya Darsha discusses his theory of Indian poetics, who is followed by Udbhatta, Vamana, Anandvardhana, who gave this idea of Dhvani. Later on, we have Kuntak, who through his Vakrokti Jivit gave the idea of Vakrokti in Indian poetics. Then we have Kshemendra, who talks about propriety, Auchitya in his work Auchitya Vichar Charcha. Then we have Mammat and his Kavya Prakash. Important work of name of Rajashekhara is to be also mentioned, because his work on Kavya Purush, his theory of Kavya Purush, is actually considered to be the first of Indian literary historiography, like the first framework of Indian literary theory historiography can be edged out by using this theory of Kavya Purusha, and scholars have already done that. So Rajashekhara is also important. Now when we look at Indian poetics, we can divide it in the 6 basic schools. So the first school is Rasa, created by Bharat, and who was followed, whose work Natya Shastra is already discussed. The second school that followed was of Alamkara. The foundation work on Alankara is Bhama's work. Then we have Riti school, which is proposed by Vamana, and we have Dhvani, school of Dhvani, which is proposed by no other than Anandvardhana through his Dhvanyalok, and we have Kuntak with giving us the school of Vakrokti, and in his Vakrokti Jivit he gives this idea of what is Vakrokti and how it is the soul of poetry, who was followed by Kshemendra, who came up with this idea on Auchitya and through his Auchitya Vichar Charcha. So these are the 6 schools of Indian poetics in Sanskrit. Let us take one by one a small glimpse of what is the crux of their work, and we will have a basic idea of what is meant by each school. In Bharat's Rasa school, Rasa is defined by Bharat in his Natya Shastra as Vibhav Anubhava Vabhichara Sanyogata Rasa Nishpatita, which means the basic formula of Rasa Nishpati or Rasa Sutra is evoking rasa, means the like when bhav, vibhav, anubhav and vyabhichari bhav are produced together, they produce rasa. So this is the central idea of rasa that Bharat has given. We all know there are types of rasa, and he also discussed bhav, anubhav in details. He also discussed 36 lakshana, but that we will take later on. We come back to Bhamaha and Alankar. From Alankar school, Bhamaka is the first theorist in India. He is considered to be the first theorist in India who directly dealt with the verb verbal meaning and words in use through Alankara. The first available definition of Kavya in India was given by Bhamaha. Poet, he says that Shabdarthu Sahitam Kavyam, which means the coexistence of Shabda and Artha constitute poetry, and that is why he divided his Alamkara as Shabdalankara and Arthalankara. Bhama is very important figure in the history of Indian poetics in Sanskrit. Next comes the Riti school propounded by Vamana. Vamana declares that Riti Atma Kavyasya. He says that the Riti, the style, is the soul of poetry. Creation of verses with specialities is Riti. What is Riti? It's the style, it's creation of verses in a specific manner, in systematic manner, and he has written his entire treatise on what is Riti, and he elaborates upon this entire aspect of Riti, the style, which is the soul of poetry for Vamana. Next comes Dhwani school, which is proposed and founded by Anandvardhana in his Dhvanyalok, which is the first, in his first Karika itself, he says that Kavyasya Atma Dhvani Riti. He says that Dhvani is the soul of poetry, and he also divides the suggestion, the Kavya he discusses in detail the theory of Dhwani, which was further taken up by next generation scholars of Indian poetics in Sanskrit. Dhwani school is followed by Vakrokti. The school of Vakrokti was suggested by Kuntak, and he takes the concept of Vakrokti from his predecessors as Bhama and others. He bases his theory of Vakrokti in the basic idea of word having a sound that denotes, and one word that has sounds that word has that sound that denotes, and words have meanings that are denotative, and words that have meanings that are connotatives. So that is from Alankara he borrows, and from there he gives his theory of Vakrokti. Kuntak considers Vakrokti as the single most aspect of poetry. Both these are the adornment, they are adornment. Vakrokti is the adornment, it's the soul of poetry, and adornment consists the poetic process known as artistic turn of speech. So if you want to know what is Vakrokti in nutshell, it is the artistic turn of speech, and ornamentation of such artistic turn of speech is what he calls Vakrata. Next comes Auchitya school, which was established by Kshemendra. In his Auchitya Vichar Charcha, the test of Auchitya is the harmony between the expressed sounds and the suggested Rasachitya Vichara Charcha. Auchitya is the laudable virtue or guna which embalms the poetry with delight, is the soul, is the crux of poetry. When one thing befits another or matches perfectly, it is said to be appropriate, Auchitya. This is the thumb rule of Auchitya, that one thing must befit another perfectly. Now, if we want to divide the phases of Sanskrit poetics, Dr. Ganesh Deshpande has divided it into 6 stages of development. First is Kriya Kalpa, next is Kavya Kalpa, then Bharat, which is from Bharat to 6th century AD. Third stage is Kavya Alankara, fourth is Sahitya, and next is Sahitya Paddhati. So, Sahitya Paddhati. So, these are the 6 stages over which the Indian poetics developed in stages over a period for about 2000 centuries. We know that Indian Sanskrit poetics tradition has developed, evolved over centuries, and it is ancient in terms and it has evolved over a long period of time. From next Sanskrit poetics, we go back to, or we switch over to Tamil poetics. Tamil poetics is also a very rich and ancient tradition. The mentions of Cheras, the Pandavas and Cholas dynasty are found in the great Indian epics as well. So we know that Tamil tradition is as ancient as the Sanskrit traditions in India, and Tamil poetic traditions is based on the pillars of the writings of Sangam period. It is the earliest known Tamil poetry. Sangam periods or the Sangam poets are named after the assembly called Sangam of Poets. The spelling of Sangam is often written as Cankam. And Sangam, the assemblies are divided into three parts. The first Sangam lasted for around 4,400 years. The second one lasted around 3,700 years. And the third phase of this assembly was around 1,850 years. The major work of Tamil poetics is considered the Tolakapiyam, which is believed to have been written by Tolakapiyar, who belonged to 500 BC to 300 AD. Tolakapiyar was basically a linguist and grammarian. Tolakapiyam is a text of grammar and rhetoric. It consists of two segments. It can be divided into two segments. The first 8 anthologies of this text or of this collection deals with the poetics and the poetry, and the 9th anthology, which is made up of 10 idylls, consists of poetry that represent pictures of early Tamil life. So it also gives a glimpses of contemporary Tamil life. The work here focuses more on the diction and the syntax of the poetry. It also deals obviously with word, meaning, syntax in poetry, and they have been detailed analyzed in a very detailed manner in this work. The work is basically descriptive linguistic of Tamil tradition. It is a descriptive analysis or descriptive linguistic of Tamil poetics. So somebody who is interested in learning more about Tamil poetics in terms of linguistic, this text is the foundation of everything that follows in Indian Tamil poetics. From Tamil poetics, we move to modern Indian poetics, and Rabindranath Tagore, Sri Aurobindo, Kumar Swami, Gayatri Chakrabarti Spivak, Hiriyanna, Bhalachandra Nimade, Sudhir Thakkar, Ejaz Ahmed, and Suresh Joshi are some of the stalwarts who have contributed to the framework of modern Indian poetics. The modern poetics in India has acknowledged the presence of subjectivity, different kind of marginalization that happened within colonization and even after post-colonization era, institutions that colonize or marginalize people, socio-political movements, and also it is also about reclaiming one's own identity. Therefore, we have various discourses that follows in post-colonial India like Dalit poetics, nativism and feminism. What these discourses are all about? They basically talk about the presence of marginalization, the process of marginalization that happens in terms of literature, in terms of society or in various institutions before, during and after independence of India, like before, during and after the colonization of India. We have this sense of asserting one's own identity, speaking about the subjectivity that one has gone through, or the kind of marginalization that are faced by women. So that is also present in the modern Indian poetics. in the works of Aurobindo, we have views on poetics. The notable works by Aurobindo in terms of Indian poetics is the sources of poetry and the essence of poetry. Mardekar has also discussed in detail about the essence of beauty in poetry. Krishna Ryan has also elaborated on what is literariness in literature in terms of constituting a major theory of modern Indian poetics. Suresh Joshi focuses on interpretation of a literary text and has contributed uh, majorly in terms of constituting modern Indian poetics or contemporary Indian literature. As we discussed, Dalit poetics or Dalit poetics, nativism and feminism, which is also known as Narivad in India, also constitute a very important, a framework of studying various aspects of contemporary Indian poetics. And we have writers like Bhalachandra Nimade, who has discussed nativism or Deshwad in detail throughout the 80s, and people like Makarand Paranjape from the contemporary writers and thinkers who talk about what is nativism, what is Deshwad or Deshivad in Indian scenario. In terms of feminism or Narivad, various women writers from Indian bhashas have contributed along with women who are writing in English to constitute major chunk of modern or contemporary Indian poetics. With that, I thank all of you. Thank you, learners, for showing your keen interest in the constituent elements of Indian poetics as a component of the course Indian Poetics. Thank you. See you.